The dense forest echoed with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant animal calls as Jake trudged along the beaten path. He was an outdoor enthusiast, someone who found solace in the wilderness, away from the noise of city life. One afternoon, as he was hiking through a secluded trail, he stumbled upon a small, trembling creature hidden beneath the roots of an old oak tree. At first glance, it looked like an abandoned puppy, tiny, covered in soft fur and shivering from the cold. Jake couldn't bear to leave it alone, so he wrapped the little creature in his jacket and brought it home. He named it Shadow for its dark, sleek fur and the way it quietly followed him everywhere. Shadow was unlike any dog Jake had ever owned. It rarely barked, it was unusually intelligent, and its golden eyes held an almost eerie wisdom. A growing mystery. As the weeks passed, Jake noticed Shadow growing at an alarming rate. Its limbs became more elongated, its ears sharper, and its tail bushier than any dog breed he knew. More peculiar, however, was its behavior. Shadow had an uncanny ability to sense danger long before it arrived. It could climb trees with ease, had a sharp instinct for hunting, and showed signs of communication beyond normal canine behavior. One night, as Jake sat reading by the fireplace, he heard a low, guttural growl from the corner of the room. Shadow was staring at the window, eyes glowing in the dim light. Jake turned just in time to see a shadowy figure retreat into the darkness outside. Was it an animal? A person? And why did Shadow react so strongly? Strange encounters. Jake decided to take Shadow to the local veterinarian, Dr. Emily Carter, for a routine checkup. But as soon as she examined the creature, she froze. "Jake, where did you find this animal?" she asked, her voice filled with unease. "In the woods." "Why?" Jake replied. Dr. Carter hesitated. "Because this isn't a dog, Jake." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. "Then what is it?" Dr. Carter took a deep breath before responding. "It looks like a species thought to be extinct. A wild predator, possibly part wolf, but there's something even stranger about it. I need to run some tests." Jake felt his world tilt. Was Shadow some kind of undiscovered species? Or worse, was he raising a dangerous predator? The truth unfolds. As Shadow continued to grow, the changes became undeniable. It was no ordinary animal. Its reflexes were faster than any dog's, it could leap incredible distances, and its howls at night carried an almost haunting melody that sent shivers down Jake's spine. One evening, after receiving an urgent call from Dr. Carter, Jake rushed to the clinic. "Jake, I don't know how to say this, but the DNA results are unlike anything I've seen. Shadow isn't fully canine. There's a mix of something else, something ancient." Before Jake could process what she was saying, a loud crash echoed from outside. Shadow, now nearly twice its original size, had broken free from the house. It was sprinting toward the forest. Jake ran after it, his heart pounding. When he finally caught up, he found himself at the same tree where he had first discovered Shadow. But he wasn't alone. A group of figures emerged from the darkness, men in dark suits with tranquilizer guns. They had been watching him. "Step away from the creature, Mr. Carter," one of them ordered. Jake looked at Shadow, who stood between him and the men, growling protectively. "What do you want with him?" Jake demanded. "That animal belongs to us," the agent replied. "It's not a dog. It's something that was never meant to be found." Jake realized the horrifying truth. Shadow wasn't just an unusual pet. He was something beyond their understanding. Something the world wasn't ready for. The final decision. With the agents closing in, Jake had to make a choice. He could hand Shadow over and never see him again, or he could fight to protect the creature he had come to love as family. Looking into Shadow's golden eyes, Jake knew what he had to do. With one last command he whispered, "Run." Shadow hesitated, then with a final knowing glance, it disappeared into the wilderness, free. As the agents closed in, Jake turned to face them, knowing he had done the right thing. Some creatures weren't meant to be caged, and some friendships were worth risking everything for. The wild revelation. Weeks passed, and Jake found himself drawn back to the forest, hoping for a glimpse of Shadow. One evening he heard a distant, familiar howl. Shadow was still out there, thriving in the wild. But the story wasn't over. One day Dr. Carter called again. "Jake, I ran deeper genetic tests. Shadow's DNA is a mix of ancient wolf species and something unknown, something more powerful than we thought. We might be looking at an undiscovered branch of evolution. It might not just be a lost species. It could be a new one." Jake sat in stunned silence. Shadow wasn't just special. He was something nature had hidden for a reason. As rumors of a mysterious creature in the forest grew, Jake knew Shadow would always be watching, always protecting. And in a way their bond would never break. Moral of the story. Sometimes, the most unexpected friendships come from the most mysterious places. True bonds go beyond species, beyond understanding, and beyond fear. When faced with the unknown, we must choose between fear and love. And in the end, love is always the answer. Epilogue: The Legend of Shadow. Years passed and Jake grew older, but he never stopped looking for Shadow. Some said they saw a large, black wolf-like creature watching from the treetops, its golden eyes glowing in the moonlight. Hunters who ventured too deep into the forest spoke of eerie howls that echoed through the mountains, warning them to turn back. And then one night an old man walked the forest path alone. He felt a familiar presence nearby, a shadow moving through the trees. Jake smiled and whispered, "I knew you'd still be here." From the darkness, two golden eyes shone back, filled with the same love and loyalty that had never faded. Shadow had never left. He had simply returned to where he truly belonged, the wild.